So hello and welcome to another Flower Light Mystery School podcast, and of course welcome to 2021 and Happy New Year to everybody out there. Also happy now age of Aquarius.
That's it.
Since it's not the new age anymore.
Yeah.
It's the now age.
It is the dawning of the age. Well,
So
we are in the age of Aquarius.
Yes, exactly. It's the now age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope everybody had a lovely Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're all going to have an amazing new year. But one thing I did want to talk about, which is kind of runs a bit contrary to what I just said there, but I do see a lot around, and kind of it's been coming to me a lot lately as well, about kind of the energies of anger and fear.
Oh.
Now, I'm not saying it I don't mean to, it's certainly not a negative or a podcast by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm saying is, I want to tie it in to the mystery schools, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to start from this point and then go back, if you know what I mean. Why I'm talking about the anger and the fear, because one of the things I'm seeing is there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of people who remember 2012 and the hype surrounding 2012, because if you were, say, researching around before, pre-2012, let's say, if you were doing a lot of research, you would have come up with countless theories of what was going to happen in 2012. Do you know what I mean? And some of them, in fact, most of them were very negative.
Yeah.
Very...
very fear.
End of the world, all this kind of thing. The apocalypse, as they say, which is interesting because the word apocalypse has nothing to do with the end of anything. The word apocalypse means to reveal. It means revealing.
Like hidden stuff.
To reveal, yeah. But, we've come to kind of apply the thinking that it means the end of the world or, things like that. But, so anyone researching 2012, pre-2012, would have known. I mean, I remember there was a lot of people who genuinely were that. I mean, I knew one person in mind stands out who was genuinely so upset and freaked out, I suppose are the words, about 2012 and what may or may not happen, that they were talking about suicide.
Oh.
Which I found kind of ironic, because this person was talking about killing themselves because they were afraid the world was going to end.
Yeah.
I know
it's like, I'm not sensitive, but it's a paradox. It's
a paradox. So I suppose what I'm tying that into really is what I'm seeing now, which is the same level of fear, if you like, that's been put out there, And when I say put out there, I mean, you know what I mean by all mediums, but probably mainly the internet, I suppose. But by all media,
Yes.
And so there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of different theories about how that fear is going to manifest.
Yeah.
And I suppose because I did a lot of research pre-2012, and I suppose because I did a lot of research in between 2012 and now and coming up to this, I can tie it together, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I can see that the common denominator is that a whole lot of the theories of, because there's quite a number of kind of end of the world theories out there now as well.
Yeah.
For this present moment that we're in.
Yes.
And what I've seen is that they're all pretty much the same as the ones that were being prophesied for 2012. Do you know what I mean? There was so many of them. Comets hitting the earth, Nibiru coming back, volcanoes going on. It's endless, apart from all the other ones that would apply to this present time that we're in, if you like, 2020 and 2021. So I just want to, I suppose, because it's extremely important to understand for everybody that anger and fear are, that was a Freudian slip there, because fear is an energy in and of itself, if you know what I mean.
So is anger.
Yeah, and anger is a natural byproduct of fear, like when you get really afraid, sometimes you'll see that you're also angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anger and fear kind of are the same, or different sides rather, of the same coin, if you know what I mean.
Different extremes.
Yeah. So fear and anger go hand in hand, and that's the thing in the mystery schools. that all the training was done around. I mean, of course, there was a lot of other reasons, but to become fearless,
Wow.
was definitely one of the main goals, if you like, to become fearless. So being one of the main goals, you can see how important it is, and because reason being, it's those energies, fear and anger, that will hold you back. They will always hold you back. And the thing about fear is fear, and even anger itself, but fear is the root energy, if you like, the root thing. And fear creates its own gravitational pull. When you're allowing yourself to linger in the energy of negativity, say that could be in your own thoughts, you could be to have negative thoughts, but you're allowing yourself to stay there rather than pulling yourself out of them, you know. Another way could be if you're indulging in watching a lot of negative things on the internet or on the TV, or you're reading a lot of negative things. Like, use your brain. You can't do that without affecting yourself negatively. And if you're going to be indulging in all negative things on the internet and on TV and everything else, then don't be surprised when you're feeling angry and frustrated and fearful. Because what you're doing is you're programming yourself, you know. Now, the original spell is fear. That's the original spell. And what I want to do, just for anyone listening, because I personally think it's a very good visual, and this is what I know it looks like through my own death experience, you know, when I was younger. If anybody has seen Lord of the Rings, and the characters in Lord of the Rings called the Nazgul Riders, and if you haven't, then think of the Grim Reaper, and what it looks like.
Hooded.
Yeah, what it looks like. So what I'm saying to you is, if you want to put an image, a visual, on the energy of fear, then visualize a Nazgul Rider, or what you could call the Grim Reaper, what that looks like. And that is an energy in and of itself that has a gravitational pull, that the more you allow yourself to linger in it and be in its energy, if you like, it'll pull you in. Like, if you can just visualize it like a magnet. The closer you get to it, the more of a pull it has on you. And eventually you'll get to a point, moving towards it, that the pull it now has on you is stronger than your ability to back away from it. Like the event horizon, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So you will come to an event horizon in your delving into the world of fear stuff, that the gravitational pull that it has will no longer be in your control, and you will be pulled in. But at that point, you're in a bit of trouble now, and you've got to put on your back propellant thrusters. Reverse quick, backpedal out of this quick, you know. It's like you're trying to backpedal out from the event horizon, which has its own gravitational pulls, you know what I mean. So all I'm saying is, the idea is not to stick your head in the sand. That's not the idea. The idea is to be like, if you don't know about something and you choose to ignore it, that is sticking your head in the sand. If you know nothing about it but you choose to ignore it. Whereas if you educate yourself about something, even if it's they're kind of negative things, if you know what I mean, you can become aware of them but not allow them to affect you. And not keep going into them. You only have to look at one or two things once and know the flow, know the way it's going. You don't have to spend hours delving into it. So you can make yourself aware of it and then choose not to focus your energy on it. That's different. That's not putting your head in the sand. When you're aware of what's going on, in other words, when you're aware of the negativity and you choose to focus your energy on something else, that's not putting your head in the sand. That's taking control.
Actively not allowing yourself to be sucked in by that.
Exactly. And you have to be active, because if you're passive, you will get sucked in. If you're being passive about it, you will be sucked in.
In other words, just arbitrarily absorbing information without
protecting yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Protecting yourself, exactly. So if you don't actively watch what you're doing, actively make yourself not watch this particular video or this particular thing, if you don't stop yourself and say, no, I'm not doing that, I'm going to do something different, I'm going to watch something uplifting. I'm going to watch something interesting. I'm going to watch something that makes me feel good. If you're watching anything on the internet that's making you feel fearful, it was meant to.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. If you're watching something that makes you feel positive, uplifting, and good, it was meant to. If you're watching something that makes you feel fear, it was meant to make you feel fearful. That's why you're feeling it.
Yeah.
You know? And that is almost addictive.
Yeah, it's like magnetizing.
You know? And it's no negative reflection on anybody. I did it myself. I researched into negative things for so long when I was over in Egypt that I landed myself in a bad place, you know? And I had to put on the backward thrust and backpedal quick. So I know how it goes. But the point I suppose I'm trying to make and what I'm trying to tie in is with the mystery schools. And so that's why the training in the mystery schools was so important. And that's why it was all surrounding the energy mostly of fear.
Yes.
Because, and although I did say anger, but anger is almost
part of
fear, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. A result of fear.
Yeah. And the reason I feel that this podcast and to talk about this is very important is because fear is the original spell.
Yeah.
You know?
In our Breaking the Spell podcast, we go way back.
Our very first
which was our first podcast, Breaking the Spell. Fear is the original spell, but the thing about it is you've got to actually delve into it before you can come out of it, if you know what I mean. And I suppose an easier way to say that is kind of like facing your fears, all those type of things. Now, facing your fears does not mean delving into looking at negative things on the internet. That's not what that means. Facing your fears means facing your own internal I don't want to say darkness because I don't mean it in terms of anything evil. I mean your own darkness in terms of your own struggles, maybe.
Yeah, for your own growth.
Like,
well, maybe why that particular thing is causing you fear and unrest, the root cause of that.
An unconscious or subconscious.
Let's say you might suddenly realise that you were being kind of selfish in a certain situation, right? Well, that doesn't make you the devil, just because do you know what I mean? Because you were selfish. We all do it. But if you're capable of standing outside yourself and saying, do you know what, I was actually being a bit selfish in that situation.
Be more
That's
objective.
what makes you different.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. If you can be active and see yourself, your own darkness, and what I'm calling darkness is, say you're selfish in a situation. That's what I mean by darkness. I'm not saying anything evil, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not contributing to unity consciousness. Darkness, or selfishness rather, is not contributing to unity consciousness, even though it's not the worst thing you can do, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just taking it as an example.
Well, I'm thinking
that you can recognise your own negativity, if you like.
Yeah.
And stand back from it and be honest about it.
Like your shadow side, like...
Your shadow, that's a better way to say it, yeah, exactly.
I was thinking in the mystery schools, one of the things was they confronted fear in every chakra, right? Like overcoming the fear of death in every chakra. So all these initiations were to face their fears so that when they go for the final initiation, which would be in the Great Pyramid, the third eye, the crown, they're prepared in all the lower chakras. You have to go through them.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't go through that initiation with any fear, any residual fear at all. It all has to be... Because
it won't be successful. You'll be back again, right?
There's
do it over and over again.
Well, you see, your imagination is creation.
I know.
Yeah.
So if you've got fear, the first thing you're going to manifest is your fears.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's what the
least thing you want to happen
exactly
is going to come right in front of you.
Exactly, because fear is such a powerful energy.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Fear is such a strong emotion. And when you're afraid of something, what you do is you do everything perfect to manifest, but you're manifesting your fear. Because what you do when you're in fear of something, you bring in all the energies because you really live it. You really go, imagine if this happened, I'd be so terrified, I'd be under the table hiding, oh my God, imagine I'd feel like this and I'd feel like this and I'd feel like this. And you bring in all the energies and you actually make yourself feel that way. But that's how you manifest things, you see. And you are manifesting something. You're manifesting your fear.
Yeah. And you're already feeling the emotions of what that would cause you.
It's so heightened, yeah. No, I worked for a consulting firm years ago, creative consulting firms, and what they said, people identify with their negative thoughts like 100%.
Quicker,
and then when they have something positive happen to them, they can barely remember what happened.
Yeah.
But the negative thing, they can
more.
Every single detail, every emotion, every nuance.
Yeah.
So they would try to teach people how to identify with the positive as much as they do with the negative.
And some people are so identified with the negative that if they do have a happy hour or day in their life, they find themselves suddenly going, hey, hold on a minute, what are you happy about?
Yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to be worrying. You're supposed to be anxious. Get back to doing what you're supposed to be doing. Stop feeling happy. Like, what have you got to be happy about?
That's it.
You know?
That's it.
I actually remember a point in time when I would have felt that way. So, I mean, I've been there myself, you know? I'm not trying to, you know...
invalidate someone else's experience.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I've been there myself. And so, you know, you can clearly see how fear will stand in your way by the very nature of what we've just said. Yeah. That because the higher up in the energy you go, in terms, I'm talking again about life is the mystery. Life is. Right. We're in the mystery school.
Yes.
That's it.
And the higher up you go, the higher up you go in the energies, you know, in consciousness, levels of consciousness, let's say, the easier and the quicker you manifest things. So the initiate, the student of the mystery school, very quickly realized that if they were in fear of something, then that's exactly what they would manifest, because imagination is creation. Your imagination is how you create your reality. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you're imagining fearful things, that's what...
Well, is that what manifest?
That's what you'll manifest.
Well, that's what we're talking about, being conscious. Like, in other words, that's like the unconscious collective person that think they're...
Yeah.
So...
Everyone is a creator.
That's it, yeah.
Every single person is a creator. And we create with our imagination, or you could also say with our consciousness, or our thoughts. I mean... Our thoughts, ideas are our imagination, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like ideas, thoughts, imagination, consciousness, you know, it's all kind of, it's the same thing. And what we're saying is that, now, people will often make a definition between consciousness being in the mind, or being the mind, or being in the brain, and all that kind of thing. But the whole point is your consciousness doesn't exist in your brain or in any part of your body. Your consciousness is everywhere all at the same time. Yeah. It's immortal, it's ageless, it's timeless, it's omnipresent and omnidimensional. It doesn't exist within you. That's the illusion. So I'm saying, when I say consciousness, I'm not talking about the view that people have of consciousness being in your brain. Yeah. I'm talking about your actual consciousness being everywhere all at the same time. That's why it's referred to as light. Because light is everywhere all at the same time.
Your energetic
life
force.
Who you really are. Who you really are.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because that is who you really are. The illusion is that you're inside a body, looking out, and everything is separate. This is duality, separation consciousness.
Yes.
So we're in a disharmonic level of consciousness. Yeah. The level of consciousness we're in now, which is our third dimensional level of consciousness, that's disharmonic. Why? Because it's duality. It's duality and polarity. So the level of consciousness we're on is separation. It always has to be either this or that, night or day, light or warm. We've talked about this before. Yeah. And in order to move out of that, you've got to go the third way, the middle ground, the middle between night and day, light and warm, this or that, the middle. So we're, in terms of physics, we're talking about quantum physics. Yeah. When a 0 and a 1 can be both at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like levels of the quantum realm, where the laws of Newtonian physics all break down. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be this or that.
It's both.
It's actually both at the same time. Yeah. It's like the wave and the particle. Becomes the wavicle. That's the double slit expression. Anyway, that I'm getting off topic. But what I wanted to say was, the mystery schools were called by such. The name, the mystery schools. It gets, a lot of people have a different interpretation, and again, the mystery schools are used as well by a lot of people to say that, oh, the mystery schools are corrupt, that they're the origin of the
deception, the
Illuminati, and those that are controlling the world and all this and that. And that's what a lot of people think the mystery schools are. You know, that they're negative. It's a negative thing. That there is, I suppose, a body of people out there that would think that way. And I can understand why they think that way, because the mystery schools was infiltrated as was everything else. Yeah.
And still being infiltrated.
And yeah, of course. And the information was secreted by a certain amount of people, and it was kept for themselves, and it was kept from the masses of people.
Yeah.
And it was used to control. So in a way they're right. You know what I mean? In a way they're right. But at the same time, and I've discussed this before as well, there is the genuine mystery schools still there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to take any particular religion, but if you take a religion, religions as we know are man-made.
Yeah.
But the original concept, you know, of a creator and everything else is there in back up behind the man-made thing.
Yeah.
So the mystery schools are the same. They were kind of infiltrated in such a way that they were turned into a mechanism by which people could be controlled. But that wasn't their reason why they were created or set up in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the real reason for the mystery schools and the real mystery schools. So the real mystery school was for the student to study, to reveal, to make known to themselves the mysteries of life, death, immortality, and God consciousness.
Ooh.
That was what the mystery school was about for the real student of the mysteries.
And can I just mention, wasn't it Akhenaten who brought back the mystery schools?
Well, yeah, I was going to talk. He brought back what was called the right eye of.
That's it. Yeah.
The mystery schools were laid out in three. So you'd have the left eye of Thoth, the right eye of Ra, and the middle eye of Horus. So Thoth would represent the feminine, Ra would represent the masculine, and Horus would represent the child.
The divine child.
The third eye.
And so the three eyes are a symbol for the mystery school?
The three eyes are a symbol for the mystery schools, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And often just one middle eye, which is a circle with a dot in the middle. The middle eye is a circle with a dot in the middle. So that can often be a symbol for the mystery schools as well. I think Akhenaten used that symbol, the circle with the dot in the middle, for his mystery school.
And is it true that Akhenaten's mystery school was mostly women?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mostly women that was taken through. Because you see, if you think that the left eye is the feminine, the left is the feminine and the right is the masculine, then in the left controls the right and the right controls the left in terms of brain function.
Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
They're crossed.
So in the right eye, even though it was the masculine school, if you like, its influence was from the feminine.
Feminine energy, yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Akhenaten who re-established the right eye mysteries, which, you know, I'll talk about that, but I just want to say that the goal of the mystery school initiate was to actually, factually, and beyond any shadow of a doubt know that there is no such thing as death.
Yeah. The fear of death.
Well,
that's the major...
to know there is no such thing as death.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the only fear there is the fear of death. Now you might say, I have a fear of flying, or I have a fear of mice, or I have a fear of the dark, or I have a fear of on and on and on. People have all sorts of different fears. But back and behind of all those fears, no matter who you are, it's the fear of death. It's the fear of not being anymore.
Yeah.
The fear of your own dissolution and not being anymore.
Yeah.
That's what your ultimate fear is, and that's what everybody's ultimate fear is. So as a mystery school initiate, what they had to do was strip themselves away of all the fears. Okay, let me backtrack a bit. Everybody that's here incarnate in physical form went through the process that I'm just going to describe now. Okay? When you are, if you want to call it between lives, if you want to call it back at source, whatever way you want to think of it. So when you're out of physical incarnation, right? You know who you are. You know what you are. You know you are ageless, timeless, immortal, creator. You know that.
Yeah.
In order to incarnate physically, you have got to forget who you are. You've got to consciously forget who you are. And you've got to lower your energy, and you've got to come into a much lower or denser energy. At which point you're going to forget, because I mean, the slower the energy, if you can just put it this way, the slower the energy goes, then the more information gets lost. Does that make sense? Like, say, when you're not in physical incarnation, your consciousness is vibrating at a very high speed. I'll just use the word speed, right? It's very vibrating at a very high speed, yeah?
Yes.
Or frequency. if you want to say.
Yeah.
When original creator consciousness decided to come into physical incarnation, it had to lower the speed of its vibration down quite low and slow to make physical, what appears to be physical matter.
Dense.
To make, exactly, dense. To make the physical body. So it's dense energy. So when consciousness comes into such dense energy, the natural byproduct is the loss of information.
Yeah, because
the information is resonating higher.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there isn't enough space.
It's not that it gets lost. It doesn't actually get lost.
Yeah.
It kind of gets left behind in the higher realms.
Yeah.
And you come down below it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's resonating too high for you to...
There's not enough room for it to...
There's not enough room, if you want to say,
Yeah. Expand fully. I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
It's expanded information and then has to coalesce down into a dense, like... Point.
The memory of who you are, you've left in a higher frequency. And then another part of you came down into this lower, not another part, but you came down into this lower. And so that energy and information is resonating higher, so it's kind of like it's out of your reach.
Yeah.
Almost, you know.
Or it seems out of your reach when you're in the...
Well, it is out of your reach. It's that out of your reach that you've forgotten about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Completely. But the thing is, we all did that.
Yeah,
knowingly. We all did that knowingly. It's not an accident. We all did it knowingly because that's how creation takes place. We all did it knowingly, and ultimately we're all one, you see.
Yeah.
So we all knowingly came here into this physical incarnation and forgot who we were, you see. And that's the thing. When you're in this physical incarnation, you truly and genuinely do forget who you are. So in order to climb that ladder of awareness and remembrance, which is embedded in all the mythologies. So the story of Osiris and Isis. Isis putting all the pieces of the body of Osiris back together again.
Yeah. Remembering him.
Remembering, yeah. Putting him back together. When you put something back together, you remember it. So when you take it apart, you dismember it. So embedded in all those mythologies is the remembering. You know? And what are you remembering? You're remembering yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're remembering I am. I am that I am. Who is God? I am. I am. So, at every step of the way of the initiation, or for the initiate, let's say, in the mystery schools, at every step of the way, there's fear. There's fear, you know. And because you have forgotten that there is no death, because you have forgotten that you are immortal, that you are ageless, that you are timeless, that you are not this physical body. And as you've forgotten all of that, then your fear is that you're going to not be anymore. In other words, you're going to die. You're going to separate from all your loved ones. You're never going to see them again. And all those things that we fear when we forget who we are. And ultimately, it's all one. So I just want to give you a visual of that. And it works actually as well in terms of in the 3D world, how we give our power away. Because don't forget, the law of correspondence states as above, so below. So however something operates on the larger scale, it operates the same way on the smaller scale. So just think about that when I'm going to tell you this story. If you can visualize an orb, and I'm presuming that everybody listening knows what an orb is. So it's like a circle of light that pictures cameras often pick up now. But you can see them with your own eye. I mean, I've seen orbs just with my naked eye, not with a camera. But they move very fast, you know, like just quick flashes of light. You see, I'm sure you've seen them yourself. But cameras pick them up now, since we have cameras that can pick them up. So I'm sure we all have seen orbs. So just visualize an orb, right? So imagine the orb is, we'll say it's a white light orb. Yeah. So visualize that white light orb. Now, that's you. Okay. I'm just asking you to go on this imaginary journey with me for a minute. This white light orb is you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just as a visual, imagine that you could reach your own invisible hand in.
Yeah.
And take out a handful of that light. Just visualize it. Okay? You're taking out a handful of the light. Okay? You're going to take it out of the orb and you're going to put it into something else. Can you visualize that? So now go back and visualize your orb, and what do you see? You see an orb that's all light except for this little bit that you just took the bit out of. Yeah? So what's left behind? A vacuum. With the bit that you took out. and you placed into something else. So now you've left a hole, if you want to put it that way, behind. Okay? But also what you've done is you've connected by a thread the piece that you just took out back to the original orb, but all the way back to the thing that you put it into as well. Yeah? So imagine the original orb is you, creator consciousness. And you've taken this handful of you, this bit of you out, and you placed it in what you call your physical form.
Right.
Yeah? But left behind is the empty space that you took the bit out of. Yeah? But there's a thread. There's a thread that will always go back and connect to that little empty space. So you can imagine there's always a thread connecting back to the orb. So if you can visualize yourself as taking a bit, that's how you do it. That's how you come into this physical form, right? So you can be that little bit of you that you've taken out and put into yourself is here in your 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But the rest of who you are is back in the orb.
Yeah.
Yeah? But you still have that thread of connection.
Yeah.
Back to you. Okay? So if you can think of it that way.
Yeah.
So when you return to that original orb, you're back to the whole knowing, and it's not that you've become something else. You've just gone back to your original form.
Yeah.
The illusion was that the bit of you that you took out and put in something else
was all that you were.
Exactly. That was the illusion. You thought you were only this little bit, but you're not. You're the whole orb. You know. Now, if you can also take the same visualization of the orb with the light in it, and think of your 3D life here now in your 3D life, and the same process applies. And what I mean by this one now is, I'm talking about giving your power away. So the same thing applies. So again, visualize the orb is an orb of light. You take a little ball of that orb out, and you place it now into your boyfriend, or your husband, or your daughter, or your son, or your house, or your car, or your bank account, or all of those things. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Right, it could be all.
So you can imagine the orb now, right? You're taking a piece out and you're putting it into your husband or your wife, whatever you want to say. You're taking another piece of that orb out and you're putting it into your bank account. You're taking another piece out and you're putting it into your career, your job. You're taking another piece out and you're putting it into your family, your kids, everything else. You're taking another piece out and you're putting it into your whatever you want to, I don't know, your whatever, maybe religious institution you're in, let's say.
Yeah.
Now those bits of yourself that you're taking out and putting into other things, that's your power.
Right.
Yeah. So now, after you've taken all those bits out and put into other thing else, go back to the original orb. What does it look like?
It's got a lot of holes in it.
Swiss cheese.
Exactly what I was going to say. Swiss cheese. Or
Looks
the
like
moon.
Swiss cheese. Yeah. So remember I said when you take a bit out and you put it into something else, there will still remain a thread that will connect the two. Okay. So in the 3D, when you take a bit of yourself out and you put it into something else, the thread remains. But you see, the problem in the 3D is what can happen is you've now put a piece into something else. We'll take, for example, your boyfriend, right? Now you've put your bit of power in. You've created a connection, a thread that feeds right back into your original orb.
Yeah.
So now that person can inject anything into that hole in the original orb. Because remember, when you took the bit out, you left the hole. So now that person can inject anything into that. They can inject back in love, the same quality, the energy that you sent out. But they can also inject back in dark, ganky, black stuff.
Of course, yeah. If they're angry at you or...
Now look at your orb, right? Now what if you have a couple of holes there that you're after sending out, putting out into other people, other things, and instead of the quality of energy that the original orb is, that's not what you're getting back. You're getting back manky black stuff. So now your orb has bits of light and bits of manky black stuff in it. So it's kind of all over the shop now.
Yeah.
So
you know what I mean?
in this present time, in the new energy of 2021, so maybe it's very important for everybody to call back
That's exactly
their
the point.
sovereignty,
That's exactly the point.
their power to
That's why I'm
disconnect.
making this visualization.
I was just going to say, cut the cords and
well, okay, I think...
Or is that too...
What I'm trying to do is just make a very clear visualization.
Yeah, no, it's good.
And what I'm saying, to take your power back is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So again, I want to make the visualization very clear, which is, I want you to think now of the reverse of the process we just talked about. So now your orb has all these holes in it, and a lot of these holes now have ganky black stuff in it. They don't have the original
They don't have positive light
vibrating in it that it had.
Yeah.
You're in the 3D, you're after putting bits of your power into everything.
Yeah.
Into your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mother, your father, your children,
institution,
your
passion,
religion,
right?
your job,
passion.
your government, everything.
Yeah.
Even denser energy than the one that you've
even denser.
Right?
Even denser than exactly. Now you can be lucky and you can get positive feedback into your orb, which is when things are harmonic and are going well. But even with one relationship, something can be going harmonic. But you can still have a load of other holes that are being filled with black stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, look at your orb now. It's all got holes, and some of it may be okay, but a lot of it has just horrible black stuff in it. Exactly as Christine just said. It's about taking that power back. So now what you've got to do is you've got to look at your orb and follow the threads to wherever you placed those little bits of your orb into. So you follow the thread and you say, okay, I placed my power into that person, into my husband, for example. Your job now is to go to your, not physically, I mean, if you need to do it physically, fair enough, but your job now is to mentally, spiritually, emotionally go to your husband, tap him on the shoulder, say, excuse me, you have something belonging to me. Take it back, bring it back, and put it back where it belongs. Right? Now, I'm assuming that I'm talking about in a situation where maybe the relationship is not going well. I don't mean in a very harmonious relationship. But in a harmonious relationship, you still need to take your power back. Yeah. Because you should not have to give your power to anybody.
Yes.
If you're in a relationship where you have to give your power, then it's not a good one. It doesn't matter. It has to be an equal balance. So even in a relationship that's going well, husband-wife type of thing, boyfriend-girlfriend, if you feel that you've given your power away, you still need to take it back. So bring in all the other things, your government, your religion, your maybe your school, your college, your peers,
or projects
your friends,
you're working on and
everything. Yeah. So you've got to identify, and that's a very important word because it has I in it as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
I, den, a den. What is a den? You think of a den of iniquity.
That's it.
A den that you're going to, an inn, you know. The word identify is important. So you've got to identify where you've put your power because you gave it away in the first place.
That's it.
This is all part of breaking the spell, by the way.
Yes.
And if you follow this and you do this, it will work. I'm just giving you a very simplified version, but it does work. That's why I'm giving it in this simple way, because it's a very simple thing to put into practice. And all you've got to do is visualize what I'm telling you and do what I'm saying. And you'll see the difference it makes. So you reach out, you identify where you've placed all those bits of your own orb, your own energy, your own power. And then you visualize yourself going to that institution, person, whatever it is, and saying, excuse me, you've got something belonging to me, and I'm taking it back. And so you see yourself taking it back, you reel it in, the thread comes back, the thread's no longer connected to that now. And you just, it's like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you fling it out, and it automatically flings back. Yeah. So your intention to take it back is the bounce back up of the yo-yo. Yeah. Your intention to take it back makes it bounce back up.
Yeah.
So the minute you intend to take your power back, the minute you say in your mind, I want my power, in your heart, I want my power back. I'm taking my power back. Yeah. The minute you say that, bump, it's back. And it comes straight back in. And it goes back into the original hole that you took it out from. Blends in with the rest, you'd never tell the difference, like putting a drop of water back in the ocean. Yeah. And so then you identify every single place that you've put those bits of energy into, and you take them all back until you can stand back and look at your orb, and now it's back in its original
state.
So that's a simplified version of what the mystery school initiates were doing.
Yeah.
They were taking their power back.
Yeah.
So they could become that whole orb. And then you've got to then face your fear. Once you're taking all your power back, then you have to face any fears that you have. Now, of course, you know, you'll have everybody, when you're in physical incarnation, and have forgotten that you are actually the creator, and that you can't die, and that you're immortal. Well then, you know, it's laughable when you realise that you can't die to be afraid of death.
Yeah.
But when you've forgotten that you can't die, then it's not so funny anymore, you know. And so the students of the mysteries had to know, not just read in a book, they had to know.
They had to
by experiencing it. That there is no such thing as death. Now, as we spoke about before, some people have experienced it because of accidents they've had, like myself.
Yeah.
You have what they call it near death. It's not near death, it's death, and a death experience. And so you know that there's no, and a million people could tell you that you're not telling the truth, or you're not,
but you know,
that you
by
were
your
mistaken.
own experience.
But they can tell you all you like because you know, and that's where the mystery school initiate needs to be. They need to know, not believing somebody else. They have to know by their own experience, and that's what all the training was for in the mystery schools. So the left eye of the mysteries was all the emotional body training.
Yeah.
So in the left eye of the mysteries, all the emotional lessons, let's say, for example, that needed to be learned, and fears that needed to be overcome in all the different chakras, in all the different levels of consciousness. So say, for example, the root chakra, relating to anything to do with your survival.
Yeah.
All fears that you might have about survival. So what fears could you have about survival? How am I going to get enough money to survive?
Yeah.
How am I going to live? How am I going to get food to feed myself and my family? They're all fears of survival.
Yeah.
Okay. Second level, sacral. So that's to do with your sexual energy, your creativity. So fears from that level could be, will I ever reproduce myself? Will I ever have children? If I ever have children, like, will they be this way? Will they be that way? About your own creativity. How do I create things? You could have a major block in creating anything in your life.
Yeah.
Your third solar plexus is to do with your power in the third dimension. So how powerful are you? Now, if you've got holes all over your orb, how powerful are you? You know? So your solar plexus has to do with the power that you exude into this third dimension. So how much power do you put out? And how much power have you actually handed away? As opposed to how much are you putting out?
Because in the third dimension, you're in an illusion. So you
but you giving your own, you putting your own power out into your own creations and manifestations into the third dimension is very different to allowing your power to be seeped out through the other way I just described. With the orb. Yeah. Where you put your power into negative things.
I'm thinking in the 3D, like someone who supports all the institutions and thinks they're doing the right thing, even if they might not be, then they've given their power to the institution.
That's exactly they have, yes. That's what I mean. Yeah, and that was the original, that was the other explanation I was given, the orb with all the holes in it. You've given like your power to an institution or
to a church or something where you're like, they're doing everything right, but how do you know? You don't know, but you go into that physical church and your solar plexus is giving all your power to their aspirations.
Yeah. So ultimately in every chakra, now there was the system of 7 chakras and the system of 12. So it depends on how you were working as a mystery school initiate. You could be working in the 7 chakras, or you could be working in the 12 chakras.
And the 12 are the ones above.
Yeah, they go below your feet, and above. But either way, I mean, there was no right or wrong or good or bad. It was just two different ways of doing the same thing.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll just stick to the 7 for simplicity's sake. But I could easily say 12 as well.
And depend on the initiate, the level of the initiate as well, right? If you wanted to do all 12 rather than the 7.
Yeah, I think it was just on,
like individual.
But we just stick to the 7 for simplicity. But we'll say so. I'm just going through the chakras to give you examples of the emotional training that would be done. So
with the left eye.
In the left eye, yeah. So the initiate would have to do all these initiations, to overcome their fears. Like, for example, and it sounds horrific, but for example, say been locked into a dark room for I'm just taking this off the top of my head now, but say been locked into a dark room with there's no light, there's no sound, there's nobody else around. Let's say, for example, you were blindfolded when you were brought there, so you don't even know where you are.
Yeah.
It could be underground. You don't know when anybody's going to come back to get you.
Yeah.
You don't know how to get out, But you've got to keep a clear head.
Yeah.
You've got to be calm. You've got to be focused. You've got to not panic. You've got to be prepared to wait as long as it takes. It could be weeks. They could have forgotten about you.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. What's going to run through your mind?
Yeah.
You have to combat
when you're
that
in a
fear.
dungeon, you're underground in a hole that you don't even know how you got there because you were blindfolded when you got there. And you're just dumped there. You don't know when these people are going to come back. If they're going to come back at all. What if they forget about you? Can you imagine all the fears that could come into your mind?
Oh, yes.
So that's what it was for.
Yeah.
It was to leave you for so long that you were going to end up going through every fear you could possibly think of in your mind. Until you came to the realization that that's an illusion.
Yeah.
That's I'm making all this up in my mind. That none of these things are real.
Yeah,
there
nothing
are no
can hurt you if you
there are no
allow
snakes coming out of the walls and trying to bite me by the neck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm imagining all of this because you turn off the lights in a perfectly a room that's lovely with the lights on. Turn the lights off and sit in it for a while. And you'll start thinking of all sorts of weird things coming out of here, there and everywhere. You turn off the lights in a room that's naturally beautiful in the day.
Yeah.
And sit in the dark and with no sound, no nothing, pitch dark. You'll soon start.
Well, what happens? It's exploration of the inner mind. Like how confident are you? How steady in terms of like, you know.
It's all about going inward.
Going within. That's what I mean. Like
so it's like the sensory, the original sensory.
That's what I was just gonna say. Dr. Lilly. Who invented the sensory.
Well, that is what it was about. So in terms of the mystery schools, the left eye was all about that emotional body training. Now also what they would do was they would do a lot of dreaming, you know, sleeping. The temples were used to go in and sleep and dream. And you would have people that would interpret dreams. You know, like in fact in the story, the biblical story of Joseph and his Technicolor dream coat, he interpreted the dreams. Well, that's a whole other thing. I mean, I've spoken about...
What was the Technicolor dream coat about as well?
Well, again, that's about the Druids and all the different 7 colours of the rays.
That's it.
And it connects back to Ireland, of course, as well.
Oh, we'll have to come back to that.
I think we spoke... I thought I did something about that before, but...
But I mean, this is connecting it directly to the mystery.
Well, Joseph, Yosef, is the mother of Tai, who is the wife of Amenhotep III, who is the mother of Akhenaten.
That's right.
So technically Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yosef is actually his name. He's buried in the Valley of the Kings.
He is beautiful too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's KV 46, I think it is.
But when we went on our journey,
is the grandfather of Akhenaten.
Yeah, we went to the Ramesseum, and you can see the granaries. They are still
Joseph's granaries.
Yeah, they are still there.
Yeah. Yeah, literally just down the road from the centre, yeah.
That's it.
But so Joseph was the dream interpreter. He's the one who interpreted the dreams. And who was it that he interpreted the dreams? It was Thutmose IV.
Yeah.
And Thutmose IV was the one who fell asleep beside the Sphinx.
Yes.
And dreamed that if he cleared the Sphinx.
Yes.
So anyway, that's getting kind of sidetracked. But so the left eye.
But dreaming was very, very important.
Dreaming in the mystery schools, that was all in the left eye, the emotional body training. The death experiences, because they wouldn't just do it once. They would initiate death experiences many, 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 many times. And by what I mean by death experiences would be that they would go out of their own body. So you could say out of body experience as well.
Yeah.
And they would learn to navigate while out of body.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
They would learn to understand that even while you leave this body, you still retain your identity. You don't lose your identity. You see, people think that when you leave the body, you have no identity anymore. You're just this kind of... No, you don't. You're still the same identity. You still feel, think, everything, you know. So they would initiate death processes quite, you know. That was the goal of all their, even in the emotional body training, that would be the goal, would be to bring on a death experience, which sounds horrific. It sounds terrible if you didn't understand the reason they were doing it, you know. So, for example, they could submerge themselves underwater to the point where they would drown and literally go out of their body and experience and then come back, you know. So while it sounds horrific, it was for the exploration of the realm that exists when you're not in body anymore. That's what they were doing. And also the goal, as I mentioned, was to eliminate all fear.
Yeah.
And to eliminate all fear but the final fear, which is the fear of death. So by continuously going through the process of what we call death, they would know that there is no such thing as death. So anybody going through that process and coming back into the body was now a teacher, was now a master of the mysteries who could go and tell other people there is no such thing as death. I know. I've been on the opposite side of the veil. I've been on the other side. There is no death. But when you're here, people will laugh at you when you say things like that.
Yeah.
You see. Because in the eyes of the mystery schools, the 3D realm is the realm of death. This is the realm of death.
Yeah, if you raise your consciousness above the third dimension.
You see, in terms of the mystery schools, when you're born into this realm, you actually die.
Yeah, it's the opposite of life. You're
it's
not
the opposite.
Born alive. You're born from consciousness.
You're born into death.
Yeah.
You're born into death because everything here dies.
Yeah.
Everything here has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So this is the realm of death to the mystery schools. When you leave here, when you do what we call dying to the mystery school initiate, you're being born.
Yeah.
Exact opposite way around. So that was all the emotional body, the dreaming in the temples, the working on all the emotional issues in every chakra, learning all the lessons that were associated with each chakra in all the emotional levels, and breaking through and overcoming all the fears that were associated. So then in the right eye was what we know now as sacred geometry.
Okay, so the male energy.
So the whole thing about the right eye as well includes there's a thing that's written on the walls in Karnak Temple, and it discusses what were known as the masters of the net.
Right.
So one of the things that was accredited to Thoth and Shesat is the female. You may have heard me saying Mat was the female counterpart of Thoth, and she was, and so was Shesat, and Shesat is another form of Mat. So Shesat in ancient Egypt was a goddess who wore a 7-petaled flower plant
above her head,
on top of her head. And she was the female counterpart of Thoth, particularly when it came to what was known as stretching the cord. So stretching the cord in ancient Egypt, and that's where the masters of the net come in. Stretching the cord was how, say for example, the original temple was built by Thoth, stretching the cord. So basically it's using the symbol of stretching the cord of Thoth, measuring and mapping the dimensions of the size of the temple that he's going to build, and measuring all the proportions that he's going to use in the building of his temple.
Yeah.
So that's what stretching the cord denotes or symbolizes. So Thoth was known to stretch the cord for the first temple that was ever built. He was the one who stretched the cord. In other words, he's the one who measured it's going to be this long, this wide, this high, so he was the one who created the proportions and dimensions for the very first original temple.
The blueprint.
Him and Shesat, his female counterpart. And you often see them on the walls of the temples in Egypt, Shesat and Thoth sitting beside each other. And they both have reeds in their hands. And you see them writing on what looks like a wavy line. And what they're doing is they're inscribing on the Akashic records. You see. So when you're talking about the original temple, the reason the temple builders and stretching the cord was sacred knowledge is because the original temple is the physical body. Stretching the cord, in other words, defining the measurements, is the canon of proportions by which the physical body grows, the blueprint. So it's not actually talking about a temple that we're thinking of. It's stretching the cord is referring to the creation of the physical form.
Right.
Okay?
It's funny, people always say, like, your body's a temple.
Yes, exactly. Your body is the original temple.
Yeah.
And that's why the stonemasons, for example, became ones who had power. Why had they got power? Because they had the information, the original information about the canon of proportions. How and what we actually are is all contained in this information.
Yeah,
in the
it's
geometry.
encoded in the actual building, right?
Yeah. So the student in the right eye of the mysteries was taught about the geometric beginnings of creation. Not beginning, because it doesn't begin. There is no beginning, it's eternal. But they were shown the geometric nature of creation. So, and that was described using sacred geometry. Now the idea of the stretching the cord as well also referred to the original temple was the body, and the proportions were the canon of proportions in the human body, like the golden number, the golden section,
golden mean.
And how cells divide.
Yeah.
The sequence, the binary code sequence by which cells divide after fertilization and become a physical body.
Yeah.
That's all the canonical proportions, the numerical sequence by which cells divide. So all that information was contained in what was known as stretching the cord. And but also stretching the cord referred to what was known as the creation of the net.
Oh, okay.
Now, the creation of the net is talked about in the Book of Coming Forth by Light, aka, as the Egyptologists call it, the Book of the Dead. And the creation of the net is talked about in, I forget what chapter it is now. I must look that up. But anyway, it's in one of the chapters of the Book of Coming Forth by Light, and it talks about how a net was created that stretched from earth to heaven, that connected earth and heaven. So one of the things that the mystery school and the stretching of the cord refers to is, first of all, as I said, the original temple was the body. And the stretching of the cord in that refers to the canonical proportions of the human body, how cells divide, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's to do with genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. These were like highly advanced, intelligent
yes.
geneticists, and you know what I mean? I don't want to say but they had highly advanced information.
Yeah.
So, and the net, the masters of the net they're talking about, I mean, we have now the internet, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, they had the internet, which was an organic internet.
Yeah.
Operated the same way, except for it was organic.
It's just a
internet
dense copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, internet. So it's basically it's operated on your own energy. It's not external to you, even though nothing is. But in terms of, like, say, what we have is the internet. And I'll explain. So basically in, like, the time, for example, that we would have been more aware. So we hear of cultures like Atlantis and Lemuria. So what was being described in the right eye of mysteries, and this is the mystery school that Akhenaten was trying to bring back. Now, don't forget what I just said, that Yosef, Joseph, was the grandfather of Akhenaten.
Yeah.
I also said Thutmose IV was the dreamer prince that Joseph interpreted his dream of.
Yeah.
Now, Thutmose IV is also the grandfather of Thutmose III. Thutmose III is the one who started the mystery schools in Karnak Temple. Now, I'm saying all these Thutmoses, okay? They're all of the same family.
Yeah, that's why the Tut is there.
Yeah.
Thutmose IV, Thutmose III, Yosef, who was Joseph of the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Amenhotep III and Tai are the parents of Akhenaten. They're all the same family.
Right.
Lineage.
18th
exactly.
dynasty?
They're all the same lineage.
Would they be all the 18th dynasty?
All the 18th dynasty.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you know that Thutmose III, who was Akhenaten's great-great-grandfather, I think there's 3 greats in there, but anyway, he was Akhenaten's great-great-grandfather, Thutmose III. He was the one who restarted the mystery schools at Karnak Temple. He had met with the Atlantean tribes. Yeah. Now, the Atlantean tribes, I think I've done a podcast on this before, were those that came from Ireland. The story is told in the Irish books, and it's also told in the Egyptian mythology of the same meeting. But it's told from the Irish side in our Irish books and from the Egyptian side. But Thutmose III met with what he called the Atlantean tribes, which were the Irish that came into Egypt, the Hebrew.
Yeah, the Hebrew, that's right.
They were known as Hebrew.
Yeah.
That came into Egypt. And met with Thutmose III, who, don't forget, is also the great-great-grandfather of not only Akhenaten but Scota, who's buried in Kerry. County Kerry. Tralee, County Kerry. So this is the information that they brought back in. So it was Thutmose III who restarted the mystery schools, and then Akhenaten carried it on in terms of the right eye of Ra mystery schools, and in that was taught the geometry. So the geometry is to do what I was saying about the creation. In the Book of Coming Forth by Light, they talk about the creation of the net, which stretches from earth to heaven. So another aspect of this was the actual, not the body being the temple, but the actual temples and sites all over the world.
Yeah.
There's 86,000 temples and sites all over the world that are directly connected into the Great Pyramid. Now, that's to do with time. There's 86,000 seconds in a day. So that's to do with, is it seconds or minutes? Anyway, it's one of them. And it's to do with, would you mind just Googling that for me and making sure? I I think it's 86,400 is or something like that. So there's
86,400 seconds in a day.
Seconds, yeah.
Antoinette.
You're on fire.
So it's all relating into time, the time-space matrix. So in relation now to the temples, the actual temples and sites that are built all over the earth. So what the ancient people were doing in terms of the creation of the net, they were creating these sites on the ground. But they were creating them in such a way that they connected to the higher consciousness grid that they were creating above. Okay?
The kind of etheric temples?
Yes, the etheric temples, yeah. So, okay, let me put this in a way. Let's say that what we're calling the civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria, now all this, again, I've said this before, all this like civilization of Atlantis and Lemuria, it's all symbolic, right? How much of it actually really physically happened? Nobody knows, do you know what I mean? But there's a moral to the stories of Atlantis and Lemuria, and the moral, if you look at the two of them, is the fall in consciousness.
Yeah.
So if you want to just boil it down to the bones, it's about the fall in consciousness, yeah? And even that in itself is an illusion. You know, even though I've spoke about the fall in consciousness myself, because we did seem to do it, but it is the illusion. The illusion is that consciousness fell, because consciousness never fell. It never fell. It can't fall. There is nowhere for it to fall to.
Well then, have we fallen from
You
consciousness?
can't leave heaven. You can't leave heaven.
Your awareness has, right?
You just forgot.
Yeah, you forgot, yeah.
You know? You've done, like, you know the little bit of the orb that you put into something else?
Yeah.
That's what you've done. You've disconnected a little bit of yourself from the larger part. That's how you forgot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you haven't got access to all the orb now. So you only have access to the little bit, for example, that you took out.
Yeah.
And placed into, you know, what you call your physical form. So, I mean, this is all complicated. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you need to fit together for all of this to make sense, if you know what I mean. But I'm just trying to boil it down to that's what we were doing. That's in the ancient world by creating all these sites all over the world. The Great Pyramid, all the sites in Ireland, in Egypt, I'm saying, you know, all over the world.
South America.
Everywhere,
India,
India, China,
Japan,
everywhere.
There's loads underwater in Japan.
All these sites collectively together. All the people, all the cultures were all working towards the one goal, the same goal. That's why the sites are all the same all over the world. You find mounds all over the world. You find pyramids all over the world. You know, the temples are very similar all over the world.
Yeah.
The only thing really that changes is not the blueprint that's used to construct them. It's just maybe the symbols that are on the wall.
Yeah.
That change. But the actual blueprint is the same.
Yeah.
So all over the world, they were creating this blueprint on the earth. Why? Because it was creating a counterpart, energetic blueprint above, ethereal, if you like. I don't mean physically above your head. I mean in a higher frequency.
Yeah.
In the big orb that you took yourself out of, right?
Yes, yeah, in a higher frequency, exactly. In the big orb, yeah. So what was the higher... when we did what we call fall, you know, the fall of Atlantis, the fall of Lemuria, when we did that, we fell, if you want to put it that way, this is how we think of it, into what we call third dimensional consciousness, which is disharmonic. Why is it disharmonic? Because third level consciousness is polarity, duality, and separation.
Yeah.
Where we're moving into now with the age of Aquarius is unity consciousness. Now, when Akhenaten brought back in the mystery schools of Ra and the geometry, that's what he was initiating. He was initiating the return to the age of unity consciousness. That's what he was talking about in terms of the one consciousness.
Yeah, like the Aten, the symbol of his religious movement. And it could be described by modern people like maybe religion is a modern construct to put onto it, right? If he was doing mysteries.
Well, they did put a religious. They made all religions out of it.
Okay, so my point is, it's he wasn't worshipping the sun. He was worshipping the information.
No, he wasn't
in the
worshipping
light.
anything. He was acknowledging that the light is the I am presence of creator consciousness.
That's exactly.
Which is your I am presence.
Yes.
Remember we said Moses, when Moses climbed Mount Sinai.
Yes.
And Moses being Akhenaten.
Mm-hmm.
And Mount Sinai being the Great Pyramid.
Yep.
But I also did say it's the Serabad El Kadim.
Yeah.
But it's also the initiation process that took place in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
And so when Moses climbed the mountain, he met with God. And the first question he asked was, what's your name? And God said, I am.
That's right.
I am is my name. So every sentient being on earth, man, woman, child, doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter how old you are, where you come from, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't even matter what language you speak, because you will say the same thing, just in a different language. What does every single thinking person refer to themselves as?
I.
Yes. So when you say, I am.
Yeah.
I am means I being, I existing, I aware. I am means I being, I existing. When you say I am Charlotte, now you've defined yourself. You see? Now you've, what's the word? There's a word on it, it's not coming to my mind. But when you say quantified, that's it.
Ah, yes.
When you say I am Charlotte, I am tired, I am hungry, I am cold.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're saying I am, you're the original I am, but then you're putting the quality on it.
Yeah.
I am cold, I am this, I am that. So the original teaching is that, you know, it says that every being knows the name of the Creator. Yeah, because they say it every day. I. I is, that's why the I is chosen, the I for the mystery schools.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say that. I was like, it's funny
Yes.
that
The right eye and the left eye.
Yeah, so you're the actual I.
The right eye and the left eye.
Exactly, so your actual I that you see through
that you perceive
is the
with.
same as the I that you use in language, I am. And it's the same as one, numerically speaking.
Yes.
Or even the 0. That's why the 0 and the 1 are the same.
Yeah, the binary code.
You see? Because the 0 is the pupil
Yep.
and the 1 is the eye.
Yeah.
You see? So every single person says it every day. I am. If you just stopped at that, you didn't say I am cold, I am rich, I am poor, I am this, I am that. If you just stopped at I am. So that's what Akhenaten did. He said, when he climbed the mountain, being aka the Great Pyramid, and he met with himself, he met with God, and he said, what is your name? And God said, I am. I am. So I am God is what's discovered.
Revelation.
Is the revelation. Is the revelation. So, and that's what Akhenaten was doing with the mystery schools. So when you take the geometry, for example, and you look at the geometry and you look at the circles representing the feminine energy, and you look at the lines and angles representing the male energy. So you bring those two together, and what you're showing visually is a unity consciousness.
Yes.
But also, all the information in the geometry contains the information on how this reality, or what we perceive to be our reality, is holographic.
Yeah.
It's holographic in nature. And that's to say that in the smallest part of a hologram contains the same amount of information as the largest part, as the larger part. So the smaller part of the hologram is identical to the larger part. So in other words, there's a cup here on the table, right? And if that was a hologram and I was to smash it into 1,000,000 pieces, no matter how small each piece would go into, if I picked it up and looked at it under a microscope, the smallest tiny piece would be an exact cup.
Yeah, it would be a copy.
It would be an exact copy of the original cup.
Yeah.
It wouldn't smash into a regular weird sized pieces. If it was a hologram,
Smash into tiny cups.
It would smash into tiny cups. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a tiny baby coming out of an adult is the same thing.
That's right.
A Russian
Or
doll.
or a seed
nested fractals
grows into the plant.
A nested fractal.
Yeah.
So the Russian dolls are like nested fractals. Things that can sit perfectly inside each other because they're the right proportion and ratio to each other.
Yeah.
The right size.
Yeah.
The right shape to fit into each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to be rude, but a human being couldn't give birth to a baby elephant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's not the right size and shape to fit inside you.
That's right.
But a baby human is.
It's not like a fractal.
But a mother elephant can give birth to a baby elephant. because it's the right size and shape to fit into, because it's not a fractal, exactly.
Yeah, which isn't that the law, one of
exactly.
the laws of the universe, right?
Exactly. So if you can think of what I'm saying, so the creation of the net, and that's the energy net, the high frequency consciousness grid.
Yeah.
That in order for us to elevate ourselves out of this third level of consciousness, which is this harmonic one that we're in now, which is polarity, duality, separation, and thinking that we're finite beings, that we have a beginning, that we have a middle, that we have an end, and being so lost and disconnected from the knowing of who we really are, we've given most of our power away.
Yes.
And therefore left ourselves with holes all over the place. So we've undermined our own structure.
Yeah.
Because there's holes in it everywhere. So now it's not strong. It's not resistant. It can't stand up to pressure.
Yeah.
And if you put something that has loads of holes in it under a lot of pressure, it'll just crumple.
Yeah.
You see?
So I guess the most important thing is to call back your power. And
well,
your
now this
sovereignty.
is one of the things I'm saying. What I started out this podcast was talking about anger and fear. And if you're allowing yourself to go into negativity, what you're doing is you're taking your orb and you're placing it into that stuff, that horrible stuff. Now, if you're placing your power into that stuff, what kind of dark gank is getting injected back into your orb from there?
Yeah.
And not only that, but you've created a connection, a feedback loop that it can continually keep feeding back into you.
Yeah.
An exchange.
Now, the thing about the fear energy is that's like black goo. And that fear energy can actually invade that whole orb. And before you know it, the whole orb is black goo.
Yeah.
There's no light left. So, that's the importance of the fear thing. Because the fear will always keep you from moving forward.
Yeah, of course.
So, and it's all an illusion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all an
That's
illusion
the most
because there
important
is
thing.
nothing to fear.
Yeah.
There is nothing to fear. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's a sound and light show.
It is, yes.
There is nothing to fear.
Yeah,
and this is what the Mystery School Initiate knew. That's why they were dangerous to the status quo. Because you cannot control somebody who's been to this level of understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't
You
make
throw 'em in a
somebody
dungeon
fear
and they'll
death
be
when
happy
they
as a
know
clam.
there's no... Yeah, exactly. Because
They've
they know how to get out of their body. They know how
to get out of their body. Yes.
You can never lock up somebody like that.
Yeah.
No matter what you do.
They're just going to come back from their state of meditation.
Because they know they're eternal and
That's
immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And so the illusion that we fell into was the illusion of separation, duality, the illusion that we're inside a physical form, looking out, that our consciousness is inside our body, the illusion that we don't have control, and of course the whole time illusion. You know,
which is one of the biggest ones.
The time-space illusion, which is all... But all of this information is contained in the geometry. And that's what is contained in the book of Coming Forth by Light. When they talk about the creation of the net. Now, if you look at that and you look at the story in the Bible of Jesus and the fishermen, and he cast the net.
Yes.
And he caught the... Fish are always symbols of souls.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, in the mystery school, do you want to be caught in the net?
Or do you
want to be a master of the net?
I want to be the master of the net, please. Thank you.
Because if you don't know the information, then you'll be caught in the net.
That's it.
If you know the information, then you're a master of the net.
That's it.
Well, then you're entangling yourself in all the different threads that you left everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's nice, but not a great net.
Yeah.
Not
That's
good.
it. Well, that's it.
I want to be a master.
It's your own entanglement of your own. It's like a narcissist who looked in his own reflection.
Oh, yes.
And fell in love with his own reflection. It's really the same
thing.
It's
a trap.
So,
it would be one of the traps that the initiate would probably have to explore.
Yeah, and that's the weighing of the heart, because when you go through the process in the mystery schools of where you get to the stage where the heart has been weighed against the feather. Yeah. So your heart has to be as light or lighter than a feather. And so you have to answer what's called the 42 negative confessions. This is in the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. Yeah. And so there's 42 questions been asked you, and some of them, for example, are, you've got to say, I have not lied, I have not stolen, I have not murdered, I have not cheated, I have not coveted my neighbour's goods, I have not...
Jeez, they sound awfully familiar.
Yeah, they became the 10 Commandments. Yeah. And of course we know it was Moses, aka Akhenaten, who got the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, aka the Great Pyramid.
That's right.
When he met God, aka himself.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying Akhenaten is God. I'm saying everybody who meets themselves reveals their own God consciousness to themselves.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everybody is creator, created, and creation in one.
That's it.
That's the revealing. And so the grand revealing is just that. That you are creator, creation, and created in one. That's the Trinity. Yeah. Of the mystery schools.
Yeah. And the Irish, the triple spiral.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Triskelion. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, triple stuff.
Triple spiral.
So you've got to repeat those
Yeah.
negative confessions. And the negative confessions are, they say that, you know, when you die, you're judged. You have an overview of your life and you're judged. Well, that's told on the walls of the temples in ancient Egypt as well, in the book of Coming Forth by Light. Mm-hmm. And it talks about the weighing of the heart. So that's when the soul has passed out with the body. Mm-hmm. And it's now been judged in the Hall of Mat, it's called.
Yeah.
And they've been judged. Osiris sits at the head of the Hall of Mat, and he judges the newly deceased. And so they have to repeat all these questions. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's not Osiris that's judging the newly deceased. It's the newly deceased judging themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be like you standing looking in a mirror, looking into your own eyes in a mirror and saying to yourself in the mirror, I haven't lied, I haven't cheated, I haven't stolen, when you know in your own heart and soul that you have. Mm-hmm. You see? So what I'm saying is, you can do it if you want. You can stand and you can look in the mirror and look into your own eyes and say to yourself, I have not lied and I have not cheated. You can do it. Of course you can do it. Nobody is stopping you from doing it. But you know that you're lying. Mm-hmm. So what I want to say to you is, a lot of people think that what goes on in their heart, because now we've moved into the heart chakra, okay?
Yeah.
And the heart chakra is now higher intelligence. It's not separation and duality anymore.
That's right, yeah.
The heart chakra is unity consciousness.
Yeah.
So that's why you're weighed against the feather of Mat. The heart is weighed against the feather of Mat.
And that's universal law.
Universal law, the law of one. That's what Akhenaten was bringing back in the form of the geometry, the law of one. And so when the heart is weighed against the feather, what it's actually doing is, you see, people think in the third dimensional consciousness. Your third dimensional consciousness are related to your first, second and third chakras.
Right.
Yeah? Root, sacral and solar plexus. When you move into the heart, you've moved out with third dimensional consciousness.
Yeah.
Right.
Now when I do the journeys in Egypt, that's what we do. We go into the areas and all the temples that relate to the first chakra, the second chakra, and the solar plexus chakra, which is actually Luxor, Akhenaten temple and all the temples in Luxor. Then when we move up to Abydos, where the flare of life symbol is found, we've made the quantum leap from the third dimension into the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
We are in the heart now.
That's
you see?
it.
And when you're in the energy and the intelligence of the heart, that is unity consciousness. Mm-hmm. Polarity, separation, and the this, us and them mentality goes away.
Yeah.
And we just understand it's all one. Mm-hmm. And that's the energy we're moving into in the age of Aquarius. It's the energy of unity, of cooperation, not competition.
Yeah.
Cooperation, of love, of genuine care.
Yeah.
So the weighing of the heart is almost a point at which a third dimensional consciousness cannot pass. Because if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I haven't lied, I haven't cheated, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, you know you're lying. Because it's to yourself that you're lying.
Yeah.
So yourself will not let yourself go any further by the very nature of the fact that you know you're lying. You see?
Yeah.
So the weighing of the heart and the negative confessions is really about you testing yourself.
Yeah.
To see, can you go further than third dimensional consciousness? Because if you can look in the mirror of your own eyes and your own self in the weighing of the heart and say, I have not lied, I have not cheated, I have not done this, I have not done that, and know that you're telling the truth, then you've allowed yourself to move on. There's nobody stopping you.
Yeah.
It's yourself moving through layers of yourself. And the only person that doesn't let you go any further is yourself.
Yeah. So the heart is the fourth dimensional gateway.
Yes.
And it's the intelligence, right? It's your heart is your brain, really. Like the Egyptians actually thought the heart was the brain.
The seat of consciousness was in the heart, not in the brain. Sure, they got rid of the brain. They liquefied the brain and poured it out. Yeah. But they kept the heart. Yeah. When they mummified the bodies, that is, of course.
And they put...
not while you were alive.
I know. They put amulets on the heart, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. Because, ultimately they felt they could come back in and reanimate the body,
Yeah.
But the whole idea of the mystery schools of Akhenaten was to bring back unity consciousness.
Yeah.
Was to elevate people out of the illusion of time, the time-space matrix.
Continuum,
and why that's important is because that consciousness gives you a beginning, a middle and an end, and therefore
it's linear.
Once it's linear, and once there's an end, there's a fear of death, there's a fear of it being over, so all of that can allow people to take control.
Yeah.
So if you remember in the beginning I said that it was on the walls of the temple in Karnak that it's written about the masters of the net. So these were masters of the internet, because all this information to do with geometry is talking about, is literally in terms of our physical body, is talking about our DNA.
Yeah.
It's talking about our chromosomes.
Yes.
It's talking about the process by which cell division takes place to create another human. It's literally talking about genetics.
Yeah.
A lot of the information in the flower, up to the flower of life stage, because up to the flower of life is talking about the third dimension. In geometry, when you go outside the flower of life in geometry, it's like going beyond the third chakra. You're going into once you go outside the flower of life in geometry, the stage, because you have the seed of life, the egg of life, and the flower of life. And once you go beyond the flower of life, you're going beyond the third dimension.
Yeah.
You're stepping out with the third dimension into the higher energies. So we said that.
And in the say Luxor temple, that's the Holy of Holies, or it is at the heart chakra part of it?
Every temple has a Holy of Holies. Every temple has an inner sanctuary.
Sure. Yeah, but I'm just saying, for someone who would be like, that's man on earth, the temple of man.
Luxor temple. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, so once we're in the heart chakra.
Oh no, sorry, I know what you're asking me now. If you're talking specifically about Luxor temple, because I misunderstood what Christine was asking. Luxor temple is actually built, if you were to look at it from a helicopter down, Luxor temple looks like a person lying on the ground. That's exactly what it looks like.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So what Christine is asking me is, there's an area in Luxor temple, the inner sanctuary, and you're asking me, is it related to the heart? Is that right?
Yeah, but it would probably be the third eye.
It's the third eye.
Yeah.
Because if you can remember where it is in Luxor temple, it's right at the top, and then you walk out.
Yeah, and that's the crown.
Yeah, you walk out the crown. So the inner sanctuary in Luxor temple is related to the third eye.
Okay.
And in terms of resonance of the actual temple itself, that inner sanctuary resonates higher than any other part of the temple.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing temple. Just walking through the feet.
Yeah.
You walk through the feet.
Yeah.
And then you go up every level, right?
Exactly.
And that represents ascending.
Yeah. Luxor temple is built, as I just said, it's like a big huge person lying on the ground, and when you walk into the temple, you're actually walking in through the 2 feet. And so you walk up through each chakra. All the chakras are inside the temple, because it's displaying, the levels of consciousness, if you like, that man goes through. So as you move through Luxor temple, you move through all the levels of consciousness. Like you move through the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, and on into the heart, and up into the throat, and into the third eye. And that's what Christine was just asking me. So the third eye in Luxor temple, it's right at the top of the temple, the opposite end to the end you enter into, as I'm sure you can imagine. And it has a small little area called the inner sanctuary, which is mostly in darkness. And when you stand in there, on the ground, there's like a little stone that's kind of in a mound shape. Yeah. And you stand on that, and it represents the third eye. But that inner sanctuary of the temple actually resonates higher than any other part of the temple, and it's on the walls of that chamber, which relates to the third eye, that the story of the Immaculate Conception is told.
Yeah. All on the walls. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thousands of years before Jesus ever walked the earth, the story of on the walls of that chamber that represented third eye in Luxor tells the story of how Thoth came and announced to the queen of Luxor temple, who was called Mut.
Oh yeah.
So the Trinity, the divine Trinity of Luxor temple was Amun, Mut, and Khonsu. Yes. So the story that's on the walls of that chamber in Luxor temple that represented third eye is the story of how Thoth came to Mut and announced to her that she was going to have a child that was going to be an immaculately conceived child. In other words, not conceived through sex. And then there's an image of Amun on the wall of the father, not Amun, but the father of Mut's child. And it says that this man can't have children because he doesn't have enough of these things. And you see a single sperm coming out of his penis. This is inscribed on a wall of a temple thousands of years old. How could they have seen what a single sperm looks like? Yeah. But there it is, carved into the wall.
That's it, I saw it.
And there's no mistaking what it is. It's a sperm. It's coming out of his penis. It's a sperm. And it says underneath it in hieroglyphic writing that he could not impregnate the queen because he hadn't got enough of these things. So you're left in no doubt. Do you know what I mean? And so what it says was that Mut had a divinely conceived child because he couldn't give her one because he hadn't got enough sperm. Right? So she had a divinely conceived child. And that child was conceived not through sexual intercourse. And she gave birth to the divine child. Now, that's the story that's told of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Yeah.
But this story is told in Luxor Temple thousands of years before Jesus, Mary, and Joseph ever showed up. You know? So,
and what about Horus, the third, the divine child?
Horus is where Jesus.
Oh no, we're in chakras now. Sorry, we were in the heart.
Horus is the middle eye. Horus is, in terms of the mystery schools.
Yeah.
Horus is represented as the middle eye. The middle eye is the child.
Yeah.
But in terms of the mythology in Egypt, Horus is the child of Isis and Osiris.
Yeah.
And Horus is the divine child, rightly said, Christine. The story of the conception of the divine child then is told in more detail in, like, say, Dendra Temple.
Yeah.
Where you see how Isis turns herself into a bird. And she floats over the penis of Osiris. And she conceives through immaculate conception because they don't have intercourse.
Right.
She's floating over the penis as a bird.
Yeah. But he was remembered as well.
He's dead. He's dead anyway. Yeah. Osiris is dead anyway.
He's dead and he's remembered like Frankenstein.
While she's doing this, you know. So she floats over the dead penis and the dead body of Osiris, and through this method she conceives, and through the magic of Thoth, she conceives the divine child. So that's another
piece of the puzzle.
Telling.
Retelling of the same
conception
information.
of the same story, yeah. And both of those stories, the one that's told in Luxor Temple about Amun, Mut and Khonsu, and the one about Osiris, Isis and Horus, are the same as the story of Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Absolutely.
They're the same story, but they're thousands and thousands of years
separated
earlier.
Yeah.
So the idea of Jesus being one person that happened at one time and is totally erroneous, because Jesus is actually a teaching.
Yeah.
He's of the mystery school. Jesus was the divine child.
Yeah. Yes.
Of which all of us are.
Yeah. An ascended master himself.
We're all ascended masters.
Yeah, exactly.
And all we need to do is remember. So the idea of Jesus was a teaching. Yeah. We're all Jesus. We all can become. We all have the ability not to become, but to remember that we're Jesus.
The Christ light. The Christ.
We already are. We don't need to become anything.
No, we need to remember.
We just need to remember that we are that divine child.
Yeah.
You know, interdimensional, omnidimensional, eternal, immortal.
That's it.
And Jesus is in all of us.
Yeah.
And that divine child, that creative energy, is your imagination.
That's it.
Is your ability to create with your imagination, with your focused imagination. You create your reality. Mm-hmm. Because we're all creators, but the one thing that will stop everybody from doing it
FEAR
is fear and anger. And I heard a very good thing, actually.
What?
I can't claim what you call it? What's the word?
Intellectual ownership.
Oh, intellectual ownership. That's not what I was. That's not what I was thinking of. But that's kind of what I meant for this. But anyway, I think it's very good. Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Ha ha! I love it.
So I think that's very good. Fear, FEAR.
False an acronym.
Evidence. It's an acronym. An acronym. That's the word I was trying to think.
Yeah.
False evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. So I think maybe on that note we might will we wind it up on this note?
I think so.
Will we just say coming on February 1st is the Irish spring?
Symbolic, of course. And that's the return of the goddess.
Yes.
The goddess energy, the feminine energy. And yeah, I mean, it's really important for us all to remember that we're moving into the age. We're not moving. We're are in the age of Aquarius. And that is the feminine energy. And again, the feminine energy is not in opposition to the masculine energy.
Yeah.
You know, the feminine energy is actually unity. It's unity, unity consciousness. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, you know, this and that, man and woman, you know, because ultimately the Trinity is the mother, father, child.
Yeah, the neutral energy. Right?
We are all mother, father, child rolled into one.
That's it.
And so...
and Bridget is the symbol of Imbog, right? She's
the symbol of the feminine energy, of course, rising, yeah. And one interesting thing, actually, about Bridget, as she's been turned into in Ireland anyway.
Yeah.
The feminine energy. But one interesting thing is they used to make, like, Martin did, that was in Egypt, representations of the goddess.
Yeah.
And you know the crosses, the Bridget's crosses?
Yeah.
And I think they made little kind of dolls of the goddess.
I think you're right, yeah.
In Ireland.
Out of like reeds and corn and stuff.
Out of reeds, yeah. But just that I've been talking about Isis and Osiris there, it's just another connection with, say, for example, Isis and Bridget.
Yeah.
And Imbolc, if you like.
Yeah.
Because in Egypt, the one that represented Isis was the corn doll. They made little corn dolls.
I think I've seen pictures.
You've seen that. You see the little children sell them outside the temples.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
And they make these little corn dolls, and they're representations of Isis. So there's a really strong connection between
Ireland and Egypt.
Between Ireland's ancient
female energy.
Practices, if you like,
to
honor the feminine energy, if you like, because of course symbolic denotes the coming spring, the first day of spring.
That's what it is in Ireland,
spring,
the awakening of the land.
Well, it'd be the same in Egypt, the northern hemisphere, were the same seasons and everything. So both in Egypt and Ireland, it would represent, the first day of spring coming into spring. So new birth, new life,
growth, new birth, new life.
Yeah. And of course the goddess being Isis, and the same in Ireland. So I mean, we have tonight the full moon, 31st.
Full moon in Leo. Woohoo!
Or not the 31st. Sorry, tonight's the 28th.
28th. Yeah.
I'm 2 days ahead of myself here. I'm gone to the future. But that's an interesting point actually, because the geometry is really, even though time is the illusion, well. Of course it is, yeah. Even though time is the illusion, but if you want to think of it in linear terms, geometry is really an ancient science for the future, if you like. Yeah. And the interesting thing I mentioned, that all the geometry is to do with chromosomes and DNA. And people talk about the Hall of Records. I know I said I was going to wind up there, but this has just come into my head. People talk about the Hall of Records, that there's a Hall of Records under every site, under every ancient site and every temple. Mm-hmm. But under the Great Pyramid, obviously, there's the main central Hall of Records, if you want to call it that. And that's where the holographic template for this entire third-dimensional reality and all life that exists within it.
Yes.
All variations of all life, plant, animal, insect, human. The genetic template for all of that is contained in what's called the Hall of Records, underneath Giza. And it's contained in the form of geometry. It's written in the language of geometry. So when you enter into the halls of what they call the halls of Amenti, or the halls that exist of the halls of records, like what's inscribed on the walls in the temples, what you see there,
the codes
are the codes, the codes, and they're written in geometry. Because geometry is a universal language. Yeah, it's understood. Like, if there was ever a language that you could use to discuss with interdimensional life, even interstellar life,
exactly,
it would be geometry and numbers, because geometry and numbers are the language of God.
The universe,
God consciousness.
God consciousness,
So you can understand the importance of really integrating geometry and number, because it is the language of God consciousness. And once you understand that and start integrating the knowledge that's held within it, because everything, it's the knowledge of creation. Yeah. And so the whole idea of...
It's encoded in everything in the reality. It's like what they say in a computer, which is a very low down, but the background information projecting the reality.
Exactly.
Source code. There's the word I was looking for.
And the net that they were talking about, and stretching the cord. So the cord of the net that they're talking about, the higher dimensional net that we're moving into the unity consciousness, that stretches right back to the core of source. It's connected all the way back.
Wow.
That higher dimensional energy grid. And that has been in creation, if you like, since the ancient cultures that we're calling Egypt. But how ancient are they really? Do you know what I mean?
Well, like, because we don't
how
know
long ago was Luxor Temple built really? How long ago was Newgrange built really? We don't know.
We don't know, because we've been sold...
They could have been 500 years ago. I know a lot of people will go, no way, but they could have been, because we don't know. We genuinely don't know.
That's what I think as well. Like,
then again, they could be 80,000 years. Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know. Could be a million years. We have no idea. The
time
point
is the illusion anyway.
That's it. And it's a cycle.
Well, look, what are we counting? We're counting the amount of times the earth goes around the sun. Why? Why? If it does it eternally and infinitely, why are we counting it? What's the point? And another thing is, if you look at different religions, Islam, Judaism and Catholicism, they all have, just on, I'm only picking those three, they have different calendars. The Islamic calendar, the year is 1500 and something. Yeah. The Judaic calendar, I don't know, I think it's 800 and something. I could be entirely wrong about that. And the Julian calendar is 2021. So there's just present day. There's
just a little taste.
There's a little taste of how, never mind, time and hours going backward and forward. And
here's the thing, and how the collective consciousnesses of these groups are creating their own reality.
Well, I mean, how many Muslims are there in the world? There's millions.
Yeah.
And they do not go by the same calendar that we do.
No.
How many Jewish people are there in the world?
I don't know.
I know I don't think there's as many as Muslims, but there's a lot. And they don't go by the same calendar as the Muslims or as the Christians and Catholics.
Yeah.
And then you have the Coptic Christians. They have a different one altogether as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and then of course in ancient Egypt they had 3 different calendars completely. They had a lunar calendar, a solar calendar, and a calendar based on Sirius.
Yeah, Sothic calendar, yeah.
So the illusion of it is an illusion. It's a complete illusion, and it's just designed for control. And
that's exactly it.
So the whole idea of removing fear and knowing that there is no death and walking fully into unity consciousness.
And the now.
And the now. Yes, exactly, the now.
There's only now. Forget about measuring suns and moons and stars. There's only now. Throw your watch away.
For me, the important thing that connects, I suppose, the things I talk about over and over is like the lineage of Akhenaten.
Yeah.
Skota being buried here in Ireland. And all the other connections, of course, with Ireland and Egypt. And the thing that's important is it's because it's this knowledge that connects Ireland and Egypt.
Yeah.
It's this information, and this is highly advanced information, and it's exactly for the time we find ourselves in now.
It's exactly it.
So anyway, this time I am going to wind it up. But again, I just want to get back to the point that I made in the beginning. The focus of this podcast, if you want to read between the lines of it all, is in the beginning, as I said, to do with fear and anger. And it's not on the negative side of it. It's to do with getting rid of it.
Yes.
It's to do with not burying your fear under the carpet. It's to do with identifying it, looking it in the eye, dealing with it, handling it, letting it go, and moving forward to the next point, the next fear, or whatever you want to call it.
And as they say, we did a prior podcast, look at with your real eyes.
Exactly, with your real eyes. And gradually, bit by bit, take your bits of power back.
Yes.
And put them back into the orb until your orb is back to being its pure,
effervescent, beautiful,
high frequency light.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So keep that visual in mind.
Because this is positivity.
Yeah.
Unity consciousness, go.
Happy now age.
That's it. Happy now age. Happy now year.
Happy now age. Happy new moon tonight.
Yes.
Happy first moon of 2021. Full moon, sorry.
Yeah.
Happy first full moon of the now age of Aquarius.
That's it.
And what else have we got? Oh, Embolic.
Oh yeah, Embolic.
Happy Embolic as well on the 1st of February.
Happy everything.
Light your candle.
Yes.
Light your candle so you can have fire is her symbol. So light a little. Transmute.
Exactly.
Transmute through the element of fire.
Yeah. And so we're bringing back the goddess energy, the feminine energy.
That's it.
The energy of unity consciousness. So very good, girls. So release all the fear.
That's it.
Stop
Transmute
watching negative things.
That's it.
Stop allowing subconscious programs to be placed into your head and therefore giving away your power.
Yep.
And remember, those negative things have their own gravitational field. They will suck you in.
That's right.
And anger and fear are the only 2 things that are going to stop you from moving forward and doing what we call ascending. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Be active and aware.
What you imagine is what you create. Imagination is creation, and what you focus your energy on is what will become your reality. Your thoughts of yesterday are your reality of tomorrow. So remember that.
Oh, how prophetic. I love it. Thank you.
How profound.
Woohoo, happy now year. Yay.
Happy now year.
Happy now age of Aquarius.
That's
until
it.
we meet again.
Woo.
Bye-bye.
Bye.